made Australia vote no for the Voice Referendum, and it was quite a landslide in the end. Every single state voted no. The only territory that didn't vote no was the ACT, and it was 60% to 40%, so almost 2 to 1 against the referendum, the Voice referendum going through. The other important statistic here is that the yes vote was very strong in affluent inner city areas, but it completely crumbled and fell to pieces when you entered suburbia, outer suburbia, and the region.
Let's analyse the marketing of it rather than why Australians did what they did.
So what about the Voice doesn't make sense? Like, it just, what would be far enough? What are your thoughts?
I've heard that it could divide the nation.
How?
Okay, so I have read something online about just the nature of democracy in general.
Yes, because it's patronising to Indigenous people, and I would hate to patronise an Indigenous person.
Okay, so it doesn't go far enough, but then it also goes too far.
Yes.
Because democracy.
No,
Have you Googled it? The Voice, the proposal, the referendum. Have you Googled it?
You know what? I have not had heaps of time. Just busy. Yeah.
Voice.
yeah.
Have you got your phone?
Yeah.
Can I see it? I'll help you out.
Oh.
Let's see if you do have time for it. What was the last thing you searched?
Probably just.
Oh. Did Aaron leave Love Island 13 because he had gonorrhea?
Yes.
The big questions. What is the Voice referendum?
Okay. The Voice referendum means we are voting to have a body called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice, who may make representations to Parliament and the executive government of the Commonwealth on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
The Voice will give independent advice to the Parliament and the government and will be chosen by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people based on the wishes of local communities. That advice then goes to Parliament, who continues to hold the ultimate power for legislative change. Okay, well, that is quite clear.
That was me.
I probably vote yes to that.
I just vote yes to that.
How did you find that? You just
That is, so you went on Google and then you went on
That's the first result.
result there.
Okay, well, you need to tell people about that, the Googling thing.
They should know about that.
I'm not sure. To me, that looked like a satire, like something that Rob Sitch would do. Like, would be on a Thursday, a Thursday night at the end of the 7:30 report or the news or whatever, those satire things that they did. And that would be like a satire of a Voice debate.
The thing for me, a number of things that were interesting to me is that a lot of people that I know shared and watched that ad. A lot of people that I know are like tertiary educated people, professional people. They live in metropolitan areas and they loved this ad and they thought it was fantastic. But in that respect, I felt that it was preaching to the converted in a number of different ways. So how was it preaching to the converted? First of all, the length of the ad. It's actually very, very long. As an advertisement, you actually have to stick around, listen to it. In terms of the actual language being used by the people in the ad, there was a high level of vocabulary that was being spoken, even though the young women were being presented as ignorant and a little bit frivolous and silly. They were using quite a high vocabulary. The third thing is that the context in which it was being presented was clearly some sort of a nice kind of inner city pub type of venue. Now, these inner city pub type of venues, these are not kind of everyday venues to a lot of people in outer suburbs or regional areas. These are actually quite expensive arenas, to purchase a drink or a beer in a metropolitan pub might put you, upwards of $10 just to buy a beer. And then, of course, the trio of them all sitting together had the feeling of white-collar workers coming to the pub after work. The dynamics that were happening spoke of a metropolitan audience talking to a metropolitan audience. So in that sense, it was completely missing the audience that it needed to be speaking to, which was outer suburban and regional.
How do you represent those people? Because that's just not the stuff of advertising. The stuff of advertising is hip, young, attractive, aspirational, expensive, right? Not struggling middle class mortgage dowdy in the club. You know what I mean? The No campaign preached fear. If you don't know, vote no, right? That's fear. And as a result, and the Yes campaign tried to preach hope. Literally, this is hope for the future. This is the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. And it was a battle of fear versus hope. But the problem is that from a marketing angle, the hope message, to your point, the way that you've just analysed that ad, right? That hope message was so thin. Okay, and it's a referendum, which is tough in Australia anyway. But it's combine all of those things, an opposition that doesn't support it. A lot of people were saying it was doomed from the get-go.
The hope message was geared towards a specific group of people. So the fear message was geared towards everybody in Australia, but the hope message was geared towards a specific group. And then you look at an ad like that, and somebody that is struggling, that can't afford to even buy a house, that's struggling with rent, that is struggling with work, that has uncertainty about their future. Maybe they've gone through a divorce. Maybe their hopes, their own personal hopes have been dashed in one way or another. And then you look at an ad like that and you see the main protagonist there is a well-educated, well-presented Aboriginal person, having a drink in a pub with two attractive young women. And you think, well, actually, that character has it a lot better than me right now.
Right.
And so it actually plays to the politics of envy.
The referendum happened at a time when economically the circumstances were not so salubrious anymore. You're absolutely right, yeah.
The final analysis here is it's a question of timing. Timing for launching something like a referendum is absolutely key. If you're going to launch a message of hope, it needs to be in a zeitgeist of hope. In political campaigns, and the most famous one being the Gough Whitlam campaign.
It's time. It's time. Yeah. Look, in politics, it's time is probably one of the absolute biggest drivers, probably it worked against poor old Albo in this regard. You know what I mean? And I don't think of him as poor old Albo, but in this regard, he didn't get what he wanted, which is always a tough political position to be in. So from that perspective, I think the timing was against him. He promised it, he wanted to deliver it, to live up to his promise, but the economy went south.
On that note, let's sign off on the marketing minutes, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you very much.